Okay, we got two more talks. Are you guys ready? Are you still with us? Yes. Yeah. Okay, now I can tell you what my favorite quote is. And it is the following. Every day stand guard at the door of your mind. Jim Rohn. This is my favorite quote, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll tell you about the power of thought at the next mindX. And I want to thank Fotos Lordos for sharing with me the audios of Jim Rohn's Leadership Weekend, because since I started listening, man, it has given me such a boost, and I listen to it all the time on my headphones as much as I can. I love it. Thank you, Fotos. So I've known Fotos since the age of 8, and after several years of losing touch, we met up in February of this year. We spent several hours talking about personal development and leadership and all this kind of stuff, and it turned out that over the last few years, in addition to being a director and owner of several businesses, Fotos became a network marketing leader. He's led and inspired teams through his trusted and unique motivational speaking style. He's built a business network in more than 18 countries, training and developing people, as well as creating systems for dealing with organizational change. I know Foto for his integrity, humor, attention to detail, and his somewhat photographic memory. The title of Foto's speech is Power of Choice. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a round of applause. The fascinating Fotos Lordos.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't be shy, don't be shy, come on. Give us some energy, give us some love, come on. Come on. All right. A big round of applause for our DJ, Gato, El Gato. And one more, but with a little bit more love for all the speakers that have spoken before. Thank you, guys. Okay, so I'm not going to keep a lot of your time. I want to first thank everybody for being here. A lot of you know me, and I know a lot of you, and a lot of you are very important. Some of you I met tonight, but generally thank you all, because I know that the most precious thing we have is somebody, and it's your time being here, so I'm not going to keep a lot of it. I'm going to jump straight in it, okay? I want to talk about a few concepts through a few little stories. Use the screens in different places, because we've got this loving column here tonight that we've all been looking at from this side. Okay, and the first thing I want to ask is, what is the purpose of learning? Anybody? There's no right or wrong answer, but anybody? Opinion? What's that? Growth. Growth, yes, excellent. Somebody else? What's the purpose of learning? Somebody?
Improving ourselves.
Perfect, improving ourselves. Someone else? One more? Change, yes. All correct.
Keeping your mind active and going.
Very good, yes. Yeah, excellent. By the way, yes, all of these answers are correct. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. I shouldn't have had so much tequila. Thank you for everybody who came from other towns. There's people I know who came from Nicosia, okay? Thank you, Mr. Kazuma, from flying in from Japan, and Mr. Umbele from Nigeria. I'm just joking. Just joking. Okay, so I want to say that my perception of it is the purpose of learning is to empower us with our choices, give us more freedom and more power when we choose, okay? Purpose of learning is more power of choice, and the more power of choice we have, the more freedom we have, okay? Choice is a big thing. It's not only we don't only learn so that we can follow in normal daily activities. Yes, learning is everything that we mentioned before, but this is, for me, I want to share a little bit how I see things, how I see the purpose of learning. And I want to do this through sharing a few little concepts. So the main concept that I want to talk about is learning, together with how it affects our choices, okay? Are we ready? Is everybody in? Yeah. All right, so let's start with the first story. The first story involves this Beautiful little kotopulaki, a little chicken. A little boy with his grandfather on a farm. A little boy is playing in the field. And he's excited because he just loves to be on the farm, be in nature. His grandfather, wise old man, sitting in the house. Little boy hears a sound in the barn and runs up to see what's happening. And he sees that it's the time where the little baby chickens are hatching. So he goes up closer and he can't believe he's never seen this before. A miracle of life, little baby chickens hatching. But he notices that one of the eggs wasn't hatching. It was cracking a little bit. And the little baby chicken was struggling. He could see it trying to push through. The other chickens were already out, fluffing their little feathers. And he was excited, but he was sad. He was getting worried. He didn't know what to do. And at some point, he couldn't help it. And the kindness and the love came out. And what he did is he went and he wanted to help the little baby chicken. He didn't know if it was going to suffocate. So he started pulling the shell, pulling at it. And he breaks one piece off. And then he cracks it a bit more and breaks another piece off. And eventually the little baby chicken comes out of the shell and falls down. It was a bit skinnier than the other baby chickens. But he helped it. He felt so good that he helped. That he did what he thought was the right thing. He got so excited. He runs up. He goes, grandfather, bapu, bapu. He goes, what? What is it? What is it? Tell me. He goes, you won't believe what happened. And he goes, tell me. So grandfather grabs his shoulder in a loving way, goes down, he goes, tell me. And he explained what he did. And his grandfather said, well done for trying. He knew that the intention of the little boy was a pure intention. But he turned around and then explained to the little boy that the reason the baby chickens needs to break through the shell is to strengthen its neck muscles so it's able to feed. And if you break the shell, then it won't be able to feed by himself. And then the baby chicken has a good chance of not surviving. And the little boy was so sad, but the grandfather encouraged him and reassured him and told him it's okay. Now that you know better, now that you've learned, it's okay. Now you can make better choices. Okay? So, what do we learn from that? From that story? Just got a few notes here. Okay? We learn that when what we learn from that little story is that to be able to make better decisions. Okay? More importantly, it's not always the easiest thing is the right decision. Another thing is, we don't always help people by doing things for them. And especially who has children in the room. Please, 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 and I try to remind myself this every day, as best as I can, don't rob them for the opportunity and the ability to learn to do things by themselves. We live in a westernized society where that's what we learn. We learn by helping others is doing things for them. That's not always the best thing. Okay? So, the more we learn, the better decisions we can make. And sometimes the third lesson which we learn here is that not everyone will always understand that when you have to make the difficult decision, which is the best decision, not always people are going to be able to see that and understand that. So sometimes that's difficult. Understood? Yeah? Great. Let's move on to the second story. Second story is called The Choice. It's about a wealthy man towards the end of his life, summoned his two twin sons. And he said to them, I want you both to have the same richness of life that I had. But unfortunately, I can't just give it all to you. But I have a gift to give you instead. So his two sons were looking at him, very, very sad, of course. But he reassured them not to be sad. Okay? And he said to them, the gift is I'm going to give you a wallet. And in that wallet, what goes in that wallet is your choice. You can either choose a shiny penny that goes into that wallet, or you can choose $1 million. You take the $1 million, it's yours to keep. You can do what you want with it. If you choose the penny, you can also withdraw against it. But if you leave it untouched, it doubles. My treasury director has instructions to double it every single day for 30 days. Okay? You can take the $1 million. Don't decide right now. Come back tomorrow. Here's a little book, by the way, of children's stories, just so you can pass the time tonight, maybe learn something. Relax tonight and come tomorrow and tell me your decision. So the two boys went away. The first boy couldn't sleep all night. He was thinking, What's the right choice? What's the right choice? He took the little book of children's stories. He opens it up and he sees the first story. It's called the water hyacinth, which is a plant that spreads so quickly and doubles up on itself every single day. So in a pond, basically, it compounds and duplicates. The other boy wasn't interested. He was so sure from the first moment his dad offered him the $1 million, he was sure. He was already thinking of plans. What am I going to do with this money? How am I going to invest it? So the next day comes along, okay? The second boy rushes to him, says, Dad, the $1 million, takes the $1 million, and goes away. He's excited. And he hires a team of the best experts. They rent a hotel suite. Okay? He gets the best financial advisors. They're doing back-to-back interviews, day and night, for a whole week, hiring the best financial experts, investment experts, bankers, you name it, to come up with the best strategic plan in order to make this $1 million grow. Okay? And after he decides and he's happy and everything's decided, he goes back in shock because he wanted to see how his brother was doing. And he was in shock that his brother chose the penny. And he couldn't believe what was happening. And you know, that penny basically, at the end of the first week, was 64 cents. And at the end of the second week, it was $81. And he was like, what is he thinking? And by the few days into the third week was $655. Barely enough to get him through a week of expenses. I don't know what that is in euros, but I'm not going to try and convert it. Okay, and the other brother basically took the $1 million and had his investors working, runs up to him and says, brother, what have you done? Maybe you should go speak to Dad. Maybe he'll change his mind, or maybe you can do some kind of a deal and he gives you back maybe $500,000 or something like that. The other boy wouldn't listen. He was sure. He had read that story, he had made his mind up. He had learned something from that book because he was a bit more patient and he was sure that his choice was the right choice. Okay? So almost nearing the end of the month, his financial advisors came, but there was mixed news. There was a bit of a crash in the market, so some investments didn't do very well. Other investments did okay. But basically, what happened, the month closed, and his news was mixed news. Okay? Overall, they were able to make a 50% investment upon his investment. So from $1 million to $1.5 million. Not bad. Unfortunately, his expenses, the bankers, the hotel suite, the financial experts, all of this came up to about $1 million in expenses. So he was in shock. He couldn't believe what was happening. His $1 million in the end went to $500,000. So he runs up to his brother, runs quickly back home to see what's happening with his brother. And in shock, he couldn't believe what happened. His brother's penny at the end of 30 days, ladies and gentlemen, turned to over $5 million. Now, I couldn't believe this when I saw this. I don't know about you, but I couldn't understand what the power of compounding does. So there's different things to learn about this story. About being patient, about learning, about thinking things through sometimes, about the power of compounding. And compounding is in our choices. Our daily choices compound. About our health, about our relationships, about the things we say and the things we don't say. There's a nice quote that says, no action is still an action. In other words, when you don't act, or there's going to be conflict, or you feel uncomfortable saying something to somebody, it's still an action. It's still like choosing something. Okay? And the other lesson is basically not to be run by our emotions as well. Surely the $1 million seems more attractive, right, to all of us in the beginning. Briefcase full of $1 million. Imagine what a penny looks like. So that's the other story I wanted to talk about. How by learning something, the little boy read a little book, learned a little story, thought a little bit about it, and it helped him to do what? To make a better decision, to make a better choice. The third story or concept I want to talk about is this little chart here, this little graph here. And it's the concept of being able to be different. We learn in order to have the choice to be able to be different. Not to be afraid. Not to fall into what everybody else is doing, just because that's what we've been taught. but to be able to be courageous, to step out of ourselves. This little graph is called the law of diffusion of innovation. I've read it in different books. Malcolm Gladwell, if many of you know it, also talks about it in one of his books. It's basically showing that in every idea, concept, product cycle, there's this graph basically. We see on the left-hand side the innovators. Can everybody see the screens? Okay, so we have the 2.5% innovators. What does this say? Basically, for every new idea, every new concept, everybody experiences, and every product or every idea experiences this thing. In other words, when you have a new idea, only 2.5% of people join you, agree with you, go with you. The rest is what? Rejection. People laughing at you. People saying that you're crazy. But if you don't persist through the 2.5% with what you know, and now you know that this law exists, and now you can apply it to yourselves, then you can get the next section, the early adopters. The early adopters need to see the 2.5% that it exists in order to decide to join. So an example, the 2.5%, the very first people to buy the brand new technology of smartphone or a computer, or an even better example of how I like to think about it. Imagine how it was 100 years ago when people used to hang their clothes on clotheslines, and the very first person that bought, these plastic clotheslines that open up, plastic clotheslines, NLP, plastic clotheslines. Yeah, a little joke. So everybody thought that they were crazy. Everybody said, what is this guy doing? But what happened today? How many people hang their clothes on just lines, plain lines? Very few, right? Most people have these clothes hangers, correct? Yeah? So from there, you go to the early majority, and then the rest is not as important. The important point here to learn is that we learn so that we're not afraid to be different, so that we can have better choices in making better decisions. Okay? In other words, this is a nice little quote here, and those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. I love this quote by Nietzsche. Okay? Let's have a round of applause for Nietzsche. Okay? And to talk about being different and not being afraid to make choices that is different than what everyone else is doing, based on what we learn, I want to show a little video, demonstrate a short video. Gatto, are we okay for the video? Yep. I want us to see this little video. There's different lessons in this video. It talks about leadership, but at the same time, I want you to focus and think about this person standing out, not being afraid of being different. Okay? Let's play the video. Hope the sound works.
Yeah. If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore. It's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be the first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd
is news.
A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got
momentum.
This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'll be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers. public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is over-glorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit. But you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join it.
I love how at the end people are just running. And in the beginning it was like, just what was he doing? The crazy guy just dancing and doing stuff. I love that. So let us use our learning. Let us learn in order to make better choices, to empower us with choices, to be able to be different and not be afraid, to have that courage, not to be run by fear, but to use our choices to be different. And now I just want to go back to the idea of compounding that I spoke before about the story. Who liked the story with the penny, by the way? And the story, only, really? Only. Who liked the story of the chicken? Come on, we're in Cyprus. Kodopulaki, chicken? Okay. So the last thing I want to talk about is, again, compounding. I just want to say how every choice we make, when nobody is looking, no one's there to tell you, well done, you did the right choice. You can't even see the results sometimes. It is the daily choices we make that compound. The little steps that make a difference. Not the big things. We go to the movies, we see like amazing movie trailers with action scene and the guys training. But it's not that, it's the little things, the tiny little things that make a difference, that compound. Just like that little penny. It's your choices that compound daily. And I want you to see this little video again. This is the last thing I'm going to show. It's a small video. It's one of my favorite videos that I use. For me, it's one of the most inspirational things. And I wanted to share it with you. Enjoy. Yeah. I love that video. I love that video. That says everything to me. That just speaks with me. In closing, let us take what we learn to make better decisions, to empower us, to give us more power with our choices. Okay? And finally, every single one of us is a teacher. Every single one of us knows what to say and knows what to do. and knows to make better choices and better decisions. And I want us to take what we know, promise ourselves that we will constantly learn, constantly understand that we have that power of choice, and that we will pass that on to future generations, because it is what we know and how well we grow, okay, that builds the foundation of our country, of our society, of our families, and of this world. And every one of us can make a difference. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Fotos Lordos.